The road stretched before me like a fragile ribbon of ice. Towering trees, cloaked in heavy layers of snow, leaned over the path as if conspiring to block the way forward. My hands tightened on the steering wheel, the cold leather pressing against my palms. The faint hum of the car's heater was the only sound, but it wasn't enough to banish the unease growing in my chest. Driving through these snowy woods always unsettled me, but tonight, the anxiety had transformed into something darker, something oppressive. The car's headlights illuminated the narrow road ahead, cutting through the encroaching shadows. That's when I saw it. A dark figure standing in the middle of the path. It appeared so suddenly, as though the shadows themselves had birthed it. My breath caught, and I slammed on the brakes. The person stepped down from the back of the car and stepped into the lights of the courtyard. The tires screeched against the icy surface, the car skidding slightly before coming to a halt mere feet from the figure. My heart pounded in my ears, loud and insistent. The figure didn't move. It stood tall, draped in a long coat that brushed the ground, a wide-brimmed hat casting its face into impenetrable darkness. Something about it felt wrong. Not just out of place, but fundamentally wrong. I couldn't bring myself to open the door. Instead, I stayed frozen, gripping the steering wheel as if it could protect me. That's when it moved. A slow, deliberate step forward, then another. Its movements were unnatural, too deliberate, too measured. I fumbled for the door lock, the sharp click echoing in the silence. My eyes darted to the gear shift. I pressed the gas pedal, praying for the engine to roar to life and carry me away from this nightmare. But the car refused to budge. The engine sputtered and fell silent, as though the very act of running had become impossible. A loud creak pulled my gaze back to the figure. Its hand, gloved in something that looked like blackened leather, had found the door handle. Before I could react, it yanked the door open. "No!" I screamed, but the sound was swallowed by the night. Its grip was cold, impossibly strong. Long, spindly fingers wrapped around my wrist, dragging me from the car as though I weighed nothing. My boots slipped against the icy ground as I struggled, but its strength was inhuman. The snow crunched beneath us as it pulled me deeper into the woods. The towering pines seemed to close in, their skeletal branches reaching downward as if they too were trying to grab me. The figure never faltered, never loosened its iron grip on my arm. Ahead, a dark structure loomed. A house, or what was left of one. Its roof sagged under the weight of years and snow, its windows dark and lifeless. Something about it radiated a malevolent energy, a promise of suffering. Inside, the air was even colder than the outside. I was shoved onto a rickety wooden chair, its legs wobbling beneath me. The room was lit only by a single dim bulb hanging from the ceiling. Dust coated every surface, old books, strange jars, and a table with rusted tools that glinted faintly in the meager light. The air must have been inhaled from a refrigerator, for this promise was perfect as well as a stabbing pain, and the figure said nothing as it moved with purpose. It produced a knife, its blade long and gleaming, and placed it on the table. The sight of it sent icy tendrils of terror curling around my spine. For a moment, it simply stood there, its head tilted, as though observing me. The silence stretched on, heavy and suffocating. I realized I couldn't hear the wind anymore. Just the faint creak of the chair beneath me and the rhythmic pounding of my heart. I couldn't wait any longer. My hands, trembling and numb, fumbled at the ropes binding me. Every second felt like an eternity, but somehow I managed to loosen the knots. As soon as I did, though, I felt something heavy pile on top of my face. The moment my hands were free, I bolted. The chair toppled to the floor with a deafening crash, but I didn't look back. I ran for the door, my legs burning with effort. Behind me, I heard a deep, guttural sound. Not a shout, not a growl, something far worse. Something not human. The forest welcomed me with suffocating darkness. The trees loomed closer, their branches clawing at my face and clothes as I stumbled through the snow. My breath came in short, ragged gasps, each exhale forming a cloud that disappeared into the freezing air. Finally, hardly sparing a glance to the front, I passed into the quiet. But the figure was following. It didn't run, it didn't need to. Somehow, it was always there, just on the edge of my vision, its hat a black silhouette against the faint glow of the snow. I didn't know how long I had been running. My legs screamed in protest, my lungs burned, but the fear kept me moving. The noises behind me grew louder, those same guttural, unnatural sounds. They weren't just from the figure anymore. The forest itself seemed to join in, its groans and creaks forming a sinister symphony. A word banged its screech, a word, a lucky goblin. And then, the realization hit me. I wasn't just being chased, I was being herded. The trees bent unnaturally, their branches creating barriers that forced me down a single path. The snow underfoot felt heavier, as if it wanted to trap me, to pull me into the earth. I stumbled, falling to my knees. The cold seeped through my clothes, numbing me. I looked up and saw it. The figure standing in the distance, completely still. Watching. Its voice came then, soft but filled with an undeniable malice. You can run, but the forest has already claimed you. The last thing I saw was its outstretched hand. Then the shadows descended, and the forest consumed me whole.